What is up, everybody? Welcome. This is my PSYframe deck profile for the 11th for the November format. So anyway, without any further ado, let us just jump right into this deck profile. First thing, you got 3 PSYframe drivers, kind of a staple. You don't really not want to run this card because it's the main centerpiece of the deck. 2 Wonder Rabbit. This card helps when your opponent just sits there and stalls, and it doesn't really hurt you. Affinity's Emptiness doesn't really hurt this card because it just comes back. It doesn't special summon itself. It just comes right back. 3 Delta. This card is the card that stops spells, so he's really good since this is a really spell intensive format. If they just play a Magispector, like in the Pendulum Zone or any Pendulum monster for that matter, you can just summon this card. You can just activate this card's effect just to stop that in general. 3 Gamma, because this card is really good against the Cosmo matchup. It's really good again in the Inferno matchup. It's really good against a lot of the matchups that kind of suck against this deck, like Cosmos and Infernoids. So this card's really good. And it's basically Effect Failure and Usagi. 3 Cardcar D, again. This card lets you do things on your turn when you can't do anything. Because you're basically just sitting there for your opponent to do something, and this card is kind of mitigates that process of. So I draw into other answers, so you can't actually do anything else. 2 Maxx, because if your opponent attempts to special summon a bunch of things, you could just like, oh, I'll just draw all the answers now. So 3 Beta. Beta is the battle fader that destroys things, so 3 Alpha. Alpha searches any PSYframe card that you want on your opponent's summon. So 3 Psychic Field Zone. Field Zone is really good because it lets you put things back in your graveyard to synchro summon for later, and that's really good because if you don't have Circuit, which is the field spell, you want to have this card to synchro summon your cards into. It special summons them in defense mode, but if you're making like Omega or Zeta, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, 1 in the 1 Raigeki. 3 Duality, because you don't special summon on your turn, hardly. And the times that you do, this card is irrelevant anyway. So 3 Circuit. This card lets you synchro summon on your opponent's turn. It's basically the Yang Zing deck mixed with Honest, because Yang Zings do this too. And it's really dumb. So yeah, this is kind of my personal tech choice. I'm attacking in 2 Mind Crush because Zeta gives you information on a card, and this card helps you get rid of that information. So for example, if you rip a card out of your opponent's hand, you can now call it with Mind Crush if you still happen to have that in play. I'm just currently testing it out because I think this card is really good. And it's really good against a mirror match because you just call the things that are currently in their hand, like Gamma, Beta, or anything like that, and you kind of win from there. 3 Lose on turn. This card does not affect you whatsoever. It only really affects your opponent. Sure, it switches your Synchro monsters into defense mode, but that doesn't matter. And your PSYframe monsters generally are going to get banished regardless if you don't have Circuit on the board. So it really doesn't make that much of a difference if this card is there. So 3 Overload. This is probably one of my favorite traps in the deck. It lets you banish your opponent's cards face down, and as you banish PSYframe monsters from your hand or face up on the field, it also searches any other PSYframe card that you want. Next, we're going to move on to the extra deck, Zenmaines, because 2 Wonder Rabbits happen sometimes, and this card kind of helps mitigate that process of just sitting there fruitlessly waiting. I need to switch this out for Fortune Tune because Fortune Tune is far much better because it recycles the Wind Up Rabbits. So, but anyway, it's still a good card. Black Rose. Black Rose is obvious because you blow up your opponent's stuff on their turn. So, Psychic Lifetrancer. Not very many people actually take a liking to this card. I personally like this card in the deck because it helps with Psychic Field Zone. So if, for example, if you're going Beta into his driver, then you synchro summon with Circuit into this card, then you banish both Circuit and driver, and then you special summon like Zeta or something, then you're pretty ahead. So it kind of just endlessly fuels your advantage zone, so you can use Psychic Field Zone. It's really good. 2 Zeta. I think 2 of each of the PSYframe Synchros are really good. I think 3 Omega, 1 Zeta is not good enough. Or it's too clunky, I suppose. I mean, I guess if you consider an extra deck clunky. But anyway, this card is really good because it's on an arc. It's on an arc. And if you can have on arcs that works on your opponent's turn, then that's pretty good. Plus, this card can just recycle itself. Clearing Secret Dragon. This card's really good because it doesn't affect. It doesn't. Okay, look, it's really good in against Cosmos because this card does not target. Clearing Secret Dragon. If they attempt to activate like Forerunner, or Dark Destroyer, or Dogfighter, or Slip Rider, you could say, well, no, it just sends to the graveyard, and you're on your way. Well, Yazi, this card's probably the other card you want to go into the list of because it's just Diamond R. So that's all it is. It's the one card you want to go on the list of. One shooting Spark Dragon because this card's good. So Spark Dragon. 1 Stardust Dragon. 1 Thought Ruler Archfiend because if you're putting a target this card at all, you need to be like, ha, negate that card. Pay 1,000 life points, negate it, and destroy it. It has to be a spell trap, but that's fine. There are a lot of spell traps that target exactly one thing. So Scrap Dragon because Scrap Dragon's kind of good. 2 Omega. I like this card over Zeta, even though I think Zeta's just as fine, just as good. Because this card gives you free information and it doesn't really hurt you when this card gets banished. Plus, it opens up your play. Both of these cards open up your play is very good. So, yeah. Crimson Blader. This card's actually really good against the mirror match because if they don't have Gamma, they can't special summon Driver, which means they can't special summon anything else. And they also can't synchro summon into other things. This card's also good against the Cosmo matchup and the Inferno matchup because they have big monsters, and this card prevents them from summoning these big monsters, so it's really good. 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, probably one of the most, again, like Yazi's probably the card you want to go on the list of. Even though it destroys things, it destroys all other face-up cards. And that doesn't matter because you're going to negate them most of the time anyway. And if they have a big board, you generally have already lost anyway. So, also I'm going to explain one of my side deck choices. I'm not going to go through the side deck and explain why they're there because they should be kind of obvious. 2 Epsilon in my side deck. The reason why I think Epsilon is actually not that bad. People think Epsilon is terrible because he stops traps. I think that's the perfect reason to side deck because if the format swings into a more trap heavy format, then it's going to be Epsilon's time to shine because the Epsilon just says no to those. And plus it's 1500, so it gets its circuit a little bit more boost because unless you discard Driver, and I guess this card basically says I'm gonna get it over anything that you play regardless, unless it's like, of course, honest, because honest is honest. So anyway, I hope you guys like this deck for a while and tell me what you think about it. And Team PSYframe signing out.